Hi everyone, a very good afternoon to all, and a warm welcome to the next session on object-oriented programming. Right. So, in the previous sessions, we have completed class, object, and inheritance, and different types of inheritances, and we have left with encapsulation, polymorphism, and abstraction. So, at most, we will complete all these three topics in this session if time is possible. So, in the previous session, we have seen about three types of inheritances, I think. We have seen about multiple inheritance, and we all know that multiple inheritance is not supported directly. So we don't see any example regarding multiple inheritance. And at the same time, we have seen about hybrid inheritance. So hybrid inheritance, it is a combination of any two inheritances. I have already shown you on the PPT, and I have drawn something in green color, in red color, and in yellow color. So if anyone is having no idea regarding these types of inheritances and the previous sessions, class and object, they can go through the video which was already kept in the YouTube. Please collect the link from your WhatsApp groups. Go through the video and please watch the entire video so that you will get some good knowledge on all these things. So, and it will be very easy to understand the next sessions, right? So, hybrid inheritance, where it is a combination of two or more number of inheritances, right? And then we have seen one example on multi-level inheritance, the level by level inheritance, right? So here in today's session, let us move to the next OOP concepts. These are the OOP concepts where we have started: object, class, inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, and encapsulation. So we have completed the object, we have completed the class, and we have completed the inheritance and the types of inheritances. So let us move to the next type, that is polymorphism. Right, polymorphism. It is an ability to take more than one form. More than one form in the sense, for example, let us take one general example, right? If you have a pen in your hand, with that pen, you can write something on your books, and with that pen, you can use that pen for playing a game. And at the same time, if you have any anger with your friend, you can use your pen in order to make some pain to your friend, right? And we have one of the most popular dialogue in Telugu films. కత్తికి రెండు వైపులా పొదును ఉంటుంది, కూరగాయలు కోయడానికి వాడచ్చు, పొడవడానికి వాడచ్చు. These are the most popular things what we see in the Telugu films. The same thing, we can use the knife in order to cut the vegetables, and we can also use the same knife in order to murder a person. So that knife has been used in two ways. That means the concept of polymorphism. If anything is having more than one form, then the type is called as polymorphism. Let us take one more general example, what we are seeing on the screen. Here we are considering an operator called as plus. We all know the plus operator, plus symbol, right? So if we have defined three integer variables, please observe and please make a note of each and every point what is coming out here, right? So if you have three integer variables, that means int a comma b comma c, and then I have written the next statement as c equal to a plus b. That means here the plus symbol is used to add the values that are present in A and B, which are of integer types. That means plus symbol is used for integer addition, right? It is going to add two integer values. That means it is used for integer addition. Let us consider one more, the second type, float a comma b comma c equal to a plus b. That means the same plus symbol is going to add two values, but here the two values are of floating point type. In the first two statements, c equal to a plus b means we are going to add a plus b values which are of integer types. So there the plus is used as symbol for integer addition, and here we are going to add a plus b, where the a plus b values are float values. That means the same plus symbol is used to add the two float values, right? So the same plus is acting as an integer, acting for integer addition. The same plus is used for floating point addition. And let us work with strings. For example, there are two strings, computer and science. And if I want to add those two strings, for example, computer has been saved in str1, science has been saved in str2. If I use the str1 plus str1 plus str2, now the same plus symbol is used to concatenate, not add, concatenate in the sense it will join the second string to the first string. So here the same plus symbol is used to concatenate str1 and str2. That means previously the same plus symbol is used for integer addition, the same plus symbol is used for floating point addition, and the same plus symbol here it is used for string concatenation. That means plus is having more than one form. Plus is acting for integer addition, plus is acting for floating point addition, plus is acting for string concatenation, right? So if anything is having more than one form, then the concept is called as polymorphism. Very, very, very important concept in object-oriented programming languages like C++ and Java, right? So here, let us move where the polymorphism word has been came and what is the meaning of actual meaning of polymorphism. We have seen the definition of polymorphism. It is the ability of an object to take more than one form, right? So let us go to the general talk regarding the polymorphism. So polymorphism is a Greek language word. It is a Greek language word, and it is not a single word in Greek. It is a combination of two words, poly and morphism. It's a combination of two words in Greek language, poly and morphism. So the general meaning of poly and morphism is many forms. That means poly means many in general English. We are talking about uh, we are talking in Greek language. In Greek language, uh, poly and morphism. So the meaning of poly means many and morphism means forms in general English language, right? So polymorphism is considered as one of the most important features of object-oriented programming. So in object-oriented programming, it is one of the most important feature, right? And polymorphism allows us to perform a single action in different ways. So we can use a single thing and we can make use of that single thing in many actions by using the concept called as polymorphism, right? In other words, polymorphism allows you to define one interface and have multiple implementations. So the last point, I will explain the last point in the unit 3 or unit 4. That means you have to know what is an interface, how to define an interface, how interfaces are used in programming, how interfaces are implemented in programming. So that one is some vast topic which cannot be completed in today's session. So I will share my view on interfaces in the unit 4 or unit 5, right? So, right, I will explain next coming sessions regarding interfaces. Right, in Java, Java polymorphism is mainly divided, not mainly, polymorphism is divided into two types. Right, the names of the two types of polymorphism are compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. So the names of the two types are compile time and runtime. So let us have a look at these two type of definitions, and after the completion of these two type of definitions, we can move to the programs. Okay, so compile time polymorphism, it is also known as static polymorphism. So there is some other name for this compile time polymorphism. Compile time polymorphism is also called as static polymorphism. This type of polymorphism is achieved by function overloading or operator overloading. So there are two types of polymorphism in object-oriented programming languages: compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. So compile time polymorphism can also be called as static polymorphism, and this compile time polymorphism is possible in program by using function overloading. Remember the names, remember the terminology: compile time, static, function overloading. Remember these three words. I will show in the example what is function overloading, right? So compile time polymorphism is also known as static polymorphism. So the example for static polymorphism is function overloading or operator overloading. We are not going to cover operator overloading here. I will show what is function overloading. Okay, so let us see the next type of next type of polymorphism. Before going to the next type of polymorphism, let us see what is function overloading. Function overloading or method overloading is same. Don't confuse. Method overloading is same as function overloading, right? So when there are multiple functions with same name but different parameters, and these functions are said to be overloaded. For example, if your class contains n number of members, for example, let us say your class have a strength of 60 people, and among the 60 people, if 4 people are having the name as let us say having the name as A, not A, let us take one of your friends' names. Let us take if 4 or more, let us take your class is having a strength of 60. Among the 60 people, 5 or 6 people is having the name like Swati. That means the name Swati has been overloaded. The same thing happens in programming also. If in a program, if a function is having, if 2 or more than 2 functions is having the same name, then we can say that function is overloaded, right? So that is the definition of function overloading or method overloading. So the function need to be have the same name and with different parameters. Different parameters in the sense, as I said earlier, in your class, if there are 5 girl names which are whose names are as Swati, that means Swati is overloaded. So here, one Swati may have father name and mother name as different, and another Swati may have father name and mother name as different. That means these are the different parameters, right? These 5 people belongs to different families. That means these five people don't have same mother and same father names. These five people don't have their same surnames. These five people may or may not have same village names or same area names. So these are the parameters. So the name of the person is Swati, but then these people do not have same area name where they are living. These people may or may not have same uh, surnames, right? These people do not get equal marks in all the subjects. These are the parameters. So there may be difference in the parameters, but the names of those people is same. That means we are going, they are overloaded, right? The same concept is applied here. If in a class, if there are n number of methods, if the method name is same but with different parameters, then the concept is called as method overloading. So don't worry. I will show an example there, you can understand well. Okay, so how we can overload method is the question here. We can overload the method. Function can be overloaded or methods can be overloaded by change in the number of parameters, that means arguments, or change in the type of parameters, or change in the order of parameters. So here for method overloading, I will show three examples. Right, I will show three examples how we can define method overloading concept, that is compile time polymorphism, that is static polymorphism. Okay, so if we want to show method overloading in our program, we can show in three ways. We can show in three ways, either by changing the number of parameters, or by changing the type of parameters, or by changing the order of parameters. So the function name is same. The function name is same, but the difference is shown in terms of number of parameters, or order of parameters, or type of parameters. I will show example for these three things. Okay, so keep the things in your mind what we have seen so far. Polymorphism means many forms. If a single thing exists in more than one form, it is called as polymorphism. So in object-oriented programming languages, polymorphism is of two types: compile-time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. So we have started with compile-time polymorphism. Compile-time polymorphism is also called as static polymorphism. So here, compile-time polymorphism is achieved by method overloading or function overloading. So method overloading in the sense, two or more number of methods will have same name but with different parameters. So different parameters in the sense, we can have change in three ways, either in number of parameters, or in order of parameters, or in type of parameters. If there is change among any one of these three types, that means number, type, order, that means we are going to achieve function overloading. That means we are going to achieve static polymorphism or compile time polymorphism. So let us move to the programming and let us see how we can overload a function. Right, after that, after the three examples, if there is time, we can see the concept of dynamic polymorphism, right? So before moving to the dynamic polymorphism, let us see examples on static polymorphism, that is compile time polymorphism. So let us move to the program. One more time, I request you, please practice all the programs. Don't neglect all these programs. So this is the program regarding 4th years. So let us take a new Java document. Let us delete all the code and let us start writing the things regarding function overloading, right? So here, let us start with a class where the name of the class is O1. So we are working with overloading. So OL, let us take OL1, right? Our class name is OL1. So inside this particular class, I'm going to define a function. So here my function name is void, for example, ECE. My function name is void ECE. And here, this particular function, so we'll display something. I will write it later, no problem. I will show first what is method overloading. And then I'm going to define one more function name with the same name ECE, and it is the body of the function. And again, also I'm going to define one more function name with ECE, and it is the body of this function. So here you can observe we have defined 3 methods or 3 functions where the name of these 3 functions is same. That means we are overloading the method. But if you want to overload, we have seen one condition in the PPT. If you want to overload, you have to show some difference in order to avoid the compiler from confusion, right? You have to show some difference. So the difference can be in any of the 3 ways. We can show the difference in terms of number of parameters, in terms of order of parameters, in terms of type of parameters. So we can show the difference between all these 3 methods in any of the one way. So in this particular example, let us show the difference in terms of number of parameters, right? So here I have an integer parameter. I have an integer parameter. Here I have 2 integer parameters. And here I have 3 integer parameters. 3 integer parameters. So the things within the braces are called as parameters. So for example, here I want to print, right? Here I want to print our college name. Here I want to print our college name. Right? At the same time, inside this method, I want to print print branch name. Right? And inside the third method, right, I want to print, sorry, I think spelling system, right? In the third method, I want to print our subject name. Our subject name. So here clearly the function has been overloaded in terms of number of parameters. If you observe the first method, right? If you observe the first method, you can see there is one parameter. There is one parameter. If you observe the second method, there are 2 parameters. If you observe the third method, right? If you observe the third method, there are 3 parameters. right? You can clearly observe which was highlighted there. The first method contains one integer parameter, second method contains two integer parameters, and the third method contains three integer parameters, where the function name is same. Function name is ECE, right? First one is void ECE, second one is void ECE, third one is void ECE. But still, first one is having only one parameter, second one is having two parameters, third one is having three parameters. That means we are showing the change in terms of number of parameters. That means we have overloaded the function ECE, right? So here, how these things are going to be executed is one of the question. So I want to define one more class here, and my name of the class is OL. That means overloading. So in this class, I want to define the main method in Java, that is public static void main, and then string args. Okay. So inside the main method, if you observe the class OL1, the first class, nothing is mentioned as static. Inside the OL1, there is no static keyword. That means all the things are non-statical things. So in order to execute, if I want to print Chevrolet Engineering College, I need to execute ECE, which is having one integer. If I want to print Electronics and Communication Engineering, I want to execute ECE with two integers. If I want to print OOPS through Java on the screen, I need to access ECE with three integers, right? So if I want to access all these three methods, which are having the same name and with different parameters, I need to bring all these three methods into the RAM, because there is no static keyword before the method name. So if there is static keyword, we can directly call the methods. If there is no static keyword, first we have to bring all the elements into the RAM. So if we want to bring all the elements into the RAM, we need to create an object for class OL1. So OL1 space obj equal to new OL1. So this is how we can create objects in Java. So the people who don't understand what is an object and why object is created and how objects are created, how objects are used in the programming, they can see the previous video which is on classes and objects, the first part of OOPS concepts, right? So here I have created an object called as obj for OL1, and with this obj I will execute all the three methods. So if I want to execute, that means if I want to print Chevrolet Engineering College, I need to call obj.ece, and here I have to pass any one integer value. Any one integer value. 1 is an integer, 2 is an integer, 3 is an integer, 10 is an integer, anything. You have to pass any one of the integer values, right? So 10 is an integer value, I am passing 10. So that means it will execute an ECE method which will take one integer as a parameter. And similarly, if I want to print Electronics and Communication Engineering, I need to execute obj.ece, where I have to pass two parameters. For example, I am going to pass two integer values. 10 and 20 are the two integer values, or else you can pass any of the integer value. It's not a problem. We have to pass two integers, right? The numbers will be any of two numbers. And then if I want to print our subject name on the output screen, I need to call obj.ece, and here I have to pass three integer values because it is having three integer parameters. So my three integer values are 1, 6, 9. You can take any of the integer values. Okay. So now save this code. So if you observe the program, there are two classes, OL1 and OL, but the main method public static void main string args lies in OL. That means we have to save the code as ol.java. So I have saved the code. Now observe the output of this code. Just before observing the output, let us compile this particular code. Right, I am trying to compile. Right, I got some. I got some mistakes here. So let us move to the program. So here, not defining it as integers. Let us define with an integer variable. Let us consider A, B, C, D. Now save the code and again compile. Right, now there are no errors in the program. Previously what we have done is we have used the data type, but we don't define any variable. That's why the compiler is unable to find the space in order to store the values we have passed in the main method, right? So here, right now, it is compiled successfully. Now just run the program in order to get the output. So go to tools and then press on Control 2 in order to see the output of this program. So if you observe the output of the program, it has been printed Chevron Engineering College, Electronics and Communication Engineering, and OOPS through Java. So this is possible. With this function overloading concept, right? So here you can see what will happen if we don't have these parameters. Let us see what will happen if you don't have these parameters. If all the functions are same, so if there are no parameters, there is no need to pass all these values. Right? There is no need to pass all these values because there are no parameters there. So now let us observe the situation and let us observe the errors, what we will get if we change if we have no parameters with all the method names which are having the same name. Save the code and go to the tools. Now compile the code, right? There we are getting some, at line number 7, there we are getting ECE is already defined in OL1. So in the line number 7, we are trying to define the second method with the same name ECE. There we are getting an error that which states that ECE is already defined. And at the line number 11 also we are getting the same error. ECE is already defined. That means the JVM is unable to execute. JVM is under confusion whether to print computer science and engineering, whether to print electronics and communication engineering, or whether to print OOPS through Java over the screen. Because both these three methods are having the same name, having the same parameters, having the same return type. JVM is unable to understand which method to execute and what to print on the output screen. So JVM is completely under the ambiguity. Ambiguity in the sense it is under confusion, ambiguous, whether to execute one thing or whether to execute another thing. It is completely under ambiguous. So in order to overcome the ambiguity, we can have something like this: int A and then int B, comma int C. So here the method overloading perfectly works because in the first method it don't have 0 parameters, 0. The second method we have 1 parameter. In the third method we have 2 parameters. That means there is a difference in the number of parameters. The first ECE 0, second ECE 1 parameter. In the third ECE we have 2 parameters. So in order to execute all these things, for the first ECE don't pass any parameter because it is having 0. executing second ECE method, we have to pass one parameter. And for executing third ECE method, we have to pass two integer parameters. Now save the code and observe the output. Right, observe the output by compiling it. Yeah, successfully compiled. Now run the program. Run the program. Now you are getting the desired output. It is perfect, right? So this is called as method overloading or function overloading, where the difference is shown in terms of number of parameters, right? Now let us deal with the second difference, that is type of parameters. Let us deal with the type of parameters. So here we are going to show the difference in terms of type of parameters. I am not going to write a new program, right? I'm going to make the changes in the same program. So this is the basic thing what we have written previously. So in this thing, we have applied the difference in terms of number of parameters previously. Now we are going to apply the difference in terms of type of parameters. For example, let us see, first ECE is having an integer parameter A, and then second ECE is having a floating point parameter B, and the third ECE is having a character parameter C, right? If you observe the three methods, ECE, the names of the three methods are same, ECE, ECE, ECE. And the number of parameters are same, number. First, how many number of parameters are there in this particular ECE1? This particular ECE1 is having only one parameter. And how many number of parameters are there in second ECE? So second ECE is having only one parameter. And third ECE is also having only one parameter. That means there is no difference in terms of number of parameters. But if you observe here, the type of parameters, the type here, first ECE is having an integer type of parameter. Second ECE is having a floating point type of parameter, and the third ECE is having a character type of parameter. That means there is no difference in terms of number of parameters, but there is a lot of difference in terms of type of parameters. Now, if you want to print Chabrol Engineering College, you have to pass any one integer value, because Chabrol Engineering College is only printed when we pass integer value to ECE, because the first ECE method contains integer parameter. If you want to print, right, if you want to print your branch name, that is Electronics and Communication Engineering, over the output screen, you need to pass one float value. For example, 10.50. So in order to print Electronics and Communication Engineering, you have to pass float value. And then if you want to print OOPS through Java, there you have to pass a any character in the sense we have to pass it within double quotes, and keep one more thing here, place F here, place F in the sense, why we have placed F in the sense, by default float value will be considered as integer by default. So if you want your compiler to consider this value as float, you have to append the value with F. So simply if you pass 10.50 means JVM will execute again the integer parameter method. That is, again it will print Chabrol Engineering College. If you want to consider 10.50 as float by the compiler will consider 10 and 10.50 both as 10. That means integer. So if you want your compiler to consider this 10.50 as float, you have to append that value with the F. So I will show the difference, don't worry. So now save the code by pressing on Ctrl S, and then compile the code, right? Compile the code right there we don't get any errors. And then now run the code. So if you can observe, the three things have been printed, right? Chevron Engineering College, Electronics and Communication Engineering, and OOPS through Java has been printed. So let us see what will happen if you don't have F here. I have deleted the F, I have saved the program, and after the saving program, I'm going to compile the program, right? 1 minute. I try to compile the program, but I got something here. Cannot find the symbol, right? Method ECE double. So here we are getting some error. So instead of, in order to overcome that error, right? Define this one as double, right? Double. Save the program and compile the program. So we are not getting any errors, and then run the program. So it is executed perfectly. But when we use float here, sorry, earlier I have said the value will be considered as integer. It is not true. When we define a float, it will be considered as double. Sorry, I have sent some mistake a couple of minutes ago. So if we define 10.50 and 10, it is said that it will be considered as integer. It is not true. Sorry, I have mistaken. If we define 10.50, it will not be considered as float. It will be considered as double. So if you want to make your compiler to consider this 10.50 as float, you have to append with F. So if you don't append it with F, right, observe the error that we got. So cannot find the symbol. So JVM is unable to find the ECE with float data type, right? So if you want your JVM to find it with float data type, just write F along with the value you have passed. Now save the code and so append the code and observe the output. It will work perfectly here. Is executed perfectly. So here we have seen two programs, one with showing the difference in terms of type of number of parameters, and one with showing the difference in terms of type of parameters. And now let us see the difference in terms of order of parameters, right? Let us see the difference in terms of order of parameters. Let us deal here. Here I am defining double B char C, right? Int A and double B character C. Here I am defining, right, double D, right, char E, and then int F. Here I am defining char G, right, double H int I. So if you observe the three methods, in these three methods, first ECE contains 3 parameters, second ECE contains 3 parameters, and third ECE contains 3 parameters. So there is no difference in terms of number of parameters. And if you observe the type of parameters, first ECE is having integer character double, second ECE is having integer character double, third ECE is having integer character double. So the type of parameters is also same. 3 methods is having the same type of parameters. In 3 methods we have integer, in 3 methods we have float, in 3 methods we have character data types. And at the same time, in 3 methods, we have 3 number of parameters. But if you observe the first method, the order is integer double character. And the order in the second method is double character integer. And the order in the third method is character double integer. So there is no difference in terms of number of parameters. There is no difference in terms of order, type of parameters, but there is some difference in terms of order of parameters, right? So the difference in terms of order of parameters, how we have to execute in the sense, right? We can execute the things. We can, if you want to print Chabrol Engineering College, right? If you want to print Chabrol Engineering College over the screen, right? You can, right? You can use, see the definition in the first line. You have to pass, one second, you have to pass one integer value followed by one double value, that means float value, followed by one any character, right? So if you want to execute the second ACE method, you have to pass one float value and followed by any character, and you have to pass one integer value. If you want to execute the third ECE method, you have to pass first character followed by any float value or double value and followed by integer value. So we have to change the order of the parameters in order to execute all those things. I have saved the program and then I just compiled the program. It is compiled successfully. And then I'm going to observe the output of the program. If you observe the output of the program, it is perfect. It is perfectly executed. So this is how we can make changes in terms of type of parameters or in terms of number of parameters or in terms of order of parameters. And I request all the people, please practice all the programs what you are seeing on the screen. And please observe the changes in the programs. Please try to give some wrong values and please try to observe each and every program, right? So with this, I am going to close today's session, right? I'm going to close today's session. If you have any queries regarding today's session, you can just comment in the comment box. Hope you all get some enough knowledge today regarding the compile time polymorphism. In the next class, I will show what is runtime polymorphism and a couple of programs on runtime polymorphism, right? So in today's class, we have seen the definition of polymorphism, right? Types of polymorphism. Under the types of polymorphism, we have seen compile time polymorphism definition, method overloading definition, and 3 examples on method overloading. In the first example, we have overloaded the method with the difference in number of parameters. In the second example, we have overloaded the method with the type of parameters. And in the third example, we have overloaded the method with the order of parameters. And I have shown how to execute the method with the difference in number of parameters, the method with how to execute the method with the difference in number of order of parameters, and how to execute the method with difference in number of parameters, type of parameters, and order of parameters, right? I have shown the 3 examples. So the people who don't understand these 3 examples or the people who visit the session, please refer to the YouTube link. So please respond to the video. Please respond to the concepts what I am speaking here. Please make a comment. Please ask your doubts. I will answer your doubts so that we will have a good communication, so that we will learn the subject in a good manner. I'm not understanding because of these online classes. I don't understand whether you are getting the things in your mind or not. I am not understanding. So I will understand and I'll come to a conclusion that if you comment some doubts, I will answer those doubts and I will get some conclusion that, so you are understanding some part or you are understanding the whole thing, right? So I really thank each and every listener of this particular session, those who are listening from the last 1 hour. I really thank you, and we will meet in the next session.